Hi everyone, it's Natalia and I love making nails for my friends, and today I bought a new gel paint palette that I want to test out to see how it works. So let's try it out. Come on. So I bought this on AliExpress. It wasn't like super cheap. You can buy them in other places too. As you can see, it got a little dinged up in transit. It was, when I bought it, it was on sale for $35. I think it's $45 regularly. So it's about like a mid-range price-wise palette. It's not super cheap, but it's also very affordable. Let's pull it out here. Okay. What do we have here? Okay, we've got like the little sticky tab situation. And here it is. Very cute. The little duck, I guess. A little tricky to open. But there you go. So when we open it up, here we have, it has all of these colors and some extra paint pots, because I think they sell larger ones as well, but this one had 18 colors. Let's take them out and get it all set up. Okay. Now these come with like a little sticky pad that you first stick to the bottom of the container so that none of the gel paints fall out when you're doing stuff. So let's use all of my skill to get this open. And you just want to stick that right down there as neatly as you can. And then you just peel off the top layer so you can stick stuff down to it. There we go. All right, so to unwrap these, there's like a little tabby thing at the bottom, and you just sort of peel that back and then peel it all the way off. They're very sticky. Like they do come off, but they're very sticky. And while it may seem foolish that I'm wearing gloves, you will soon see that I was smart to do so. And then once you get that off, you're just gonna stick her down. So let's unwrap the rest. This palette has like a really diverse color range. It starts out with like pastels, and then it goes into sort of really bright primary colors. And then just really bright colors. So it's like a nice selection of different colors to it. This purple is gorgeous. You can just use a little silicone tool, scoop that right back in there. We've got some brown and black. The black got everywhere, but just scoop it off. And then finally white. And that is the entire palette. So here we go, a little close up. They're very thick. It was very easy to unwrap. Some of it did. I do recommend gloves because I did get some stuck on my hands while doing it, but for the most part, pretty mess free. All right. So I'd like to test out 5 different things with this palette. 1, can we do just like a solid color? How does it go on with a solid color? Secondly, we want to check out how it ombres, because like these are known for their ombre. So we got the little ombre tool here. We also want to check out the line art for the painting. So like we want to know if it could be used for character painting, that sort of thing. I also want to check out if you can chrome it with some chrome, if it will take chrome nicely. And finally, it's not advertised for this, but I want to see if we can use it with a stamping palette. So let's go. So first off is the basic, how does it go on as a solid color? I'm going to dip into this blue here. Let's check her out. Just using an oval brush. I've put matte top coat on all of these nails that I'm using to test. Just, you know, to make them an easy base. So far it goes on pretty smooth. It is very thick, so it doesn't like glide on. You really have to sort of brush it. Some people prefer that. It's very much like a thicker, stickier texture than like bottle polish. But it does cover very well. Pigment looking good. And there we go. That was pretty easy. It's solid. I think you'd only need one layer, very thin layer too. Cure that, and yeah, pretty flawless application if you were using it as a solid color. Good to know. All right, next step, let's try it with some line art. So first up, let's do like just a couple swirls. I'm not going to be doing anything fancy with this line art. We'll just do some swirlies. So I like to brush off a little so it's not too chunky on the brush. Let's see how we get along with this. I am by no means like a great nail painter. I'm very much learning in the learning process, but this is going very well. It goes on very nicely. As you can see, like since it's so thick and sticky, it doesn't like spread or bleed or anything, which is really nice. Keep in mind, I am doing this over just a matte top coat. Okay, fills in quite nicely. And just like with the solid, you really don't need a lot to get really good color payoff with this, which is great. It's very smooth. Very nice. So I think I'm going to try a second color, and we're going to see how we can, like, if it'll go right on top of another color, or if it'll blur it, or what's going on with that. So let's clean off your brush real quick. Let's grab some of this turquoise. Get that saturated in the brushes, and let's just start painting. Okay, that has gone right over, completely covered it. I did not cure in between. This is uncut. Let's go try another one. Okay. It did smear slightly here, but I've now put on a second little layer and it's pretty much perfect. So let's try out a dotting tool. Let's see how it works with that. Okay, dip it in this purple here. So with the dotting tool, it is like, it does have a little bit of stringiness to it. So it can leave little like more textured than I think perhaps limited use with the dotting tool, but very nice. Very nice. So let's see if we can like use this to like, you know, make those little like dots into stars. Let's see how that works out with it. Yep, this works very well, just as it has been. I'm very impressed so far with this palette. I really have been wanting like a gel paint palette, but I'm not very wealthy. So I was really hoping that this $40 gamble was going to work out. And so far, for full coverage and just like line art situations, it's looking pretty good. Let's send that into cure. Okay, after a 1 minute cure, it is fully cured. It doesn't really have that much of a tacky layer. And it's looking pretty good. Okay, so next up for what all of these are being used for recently is making ombres. So let us see what we can do with a little makeup sponge. This is just a dollar store makeup sponge that I cut a chunk off of. And this the grabber tool. Then you want to pat it out on the palette first. You want to go straight in. Let's just start patting. Again, this is on, I put matte top coat on all these nails. Okay, not bad, not bad. Going on pretty smoothly. I'm not really like good at doing ombres. It's something I struggle with. So I'm really glad that this seems to make it pretty easy. Let's just do like a quick little cure with my little, here we go, my little pin lamp. We'll do just a quick cure so I can add another layer, see how that works. I'm not like super concerned about the fully safety curing these because these are not going to be worn. For swatches and stuff like this, I use nails that are too big for me or any of my friends that I make nails for. Because all of us are size 2 and below, so I have all these size 0 and 1s. Let's do a second layer. Yeah, color payoff seems pretty good. Seems very pigmented. Very surprised. I'm actually extremely surprised at how well pigmented these are. Okay. And then let's put a little bit of the dark blue on top of that. See if we can make it sort of like a dark tip to the top. Let's see how that works. Because the light color went on nice, but oh, very nice. I really like this like royal blue. Okay. So a lot of nice color payoffs. I feel like you wouldn't have to do too many layers to like build this up to a really solid color. Let's do a quick little flash cure of that so we can take a look at it. And yeah, okay, for ombre, works great. Next, let's try stamping. So I have this pretty complex plaid stamping plate. I need to like first let people know I'm not that good at stamping. So let's try out this one here on the side here. Let's sort of slather it up with some black. This stuff is very thick, just like the stamping gel. Oh, I don't think I put enough. Okay, let's try a little bit more. Give her a little scrapey scrape. I always make such a mess when I try stamping. Okay, now let's pick it up. Shoop. Huh, nothing. Okay, let's try a different stamper. Sometimes different stampers react differently to different plates. Let's try this little one. And, didn't... Huh. Let's try that again. Maybe put a little bit more. Maybe I scraped too much. Try that again. Okay. It like picked up, but okay. Let's try like a different stamping plate. Let's try this little wolf chan, something simpler, something smaller. I want to, that could be human error. That stamping plate could be defective. Who knows? We got to give it a fair shake, right? So let's put some of the black here on the wolf chan. We will scrape it away. Shroop, 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 shroop. Okay. Okay, yeah, it does kind of pick up a little. Let's clean off the bits that we don't want. With the stamping gel, unlike the polish, you can just pick up with like the stamper, but with the gel, you can just use a Q-tip and some alcohol. And then let's stamp this bad boy on there. All right. yeah, it transferred pretty nicely. So basically, I think this sort of has limited use. I think it would depend on the stamping plate and also human error. I'm, as I said, not great at stamping, but look, it came out pretty clear. Very cute. Okay, so the final test I wanted to do was to see if it will chrome. So I'm just gonna draw like a little design, like one that I would normally want to chrome. And then we're going to see if it'll chrome. So we're going to use the black again because I tend to chrome over black. So let's do like a little, sort of like a smile line. As I said, I'm in the learning phase. Everything is always in the learning phases. But I am not a nail expert. I'm a nail enthusiast who just likes making nails for her friends. So I can always improve, and having good tools is one step towards improving. This looks not terrible. Let's just very quickly do up some sort of little design here. This design I'm doing here is one that I would definitely like put over a magnetic polish for myself. So let's see how well this chromes. I realized that I could have just done like a little squiggle and that would have gotten it done just as well for demonstrating this, but I decided to just do a whole ass design here for some reason. Classic Natalia, really. Okay, let's stick that to cure. I'm going to cure it for 30 seconds, which is how long I would have. This is basically a half cure, so 30 seconds. Let's see how this works. Okay, now I've got this like light pink chrome situation. I just use a makeup sponge and the little grabber thing from Ombre. It's literally the same dollar store makeup sponge. And then on one side, I'll put the chrome on. And then I'll wipe it away with the clean side. Okay. Now, I would say that chromed very nicely. All right, so I'm going to make myself a set of nails because I like to test it out to make a full situation here. I like to make myself, with any new product, I like to make myself a set of nails before inflicting it upon my friends, just in case I got to work out some, quirks and stuff. So here I am just sizing out. These are some medium almonds. But I prefer more of a rounded almond, so I'm going to go in and round off the edges, make it more of a round situation. I'm going to do that with every single nail. I just find the round easier for doing stuff, not getting stuff caught in things. That's just a personal preference. You can make whatever shape you like with your nails. Most of my friends, they like shorter nails, so I usually have to make the medium and long for myself. And sometimes if I'm making them nails for like a concert or something, we can go a little crazy with them. Gotta buff them up. Fill off the nail there. Sticker back on. Buff, 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 buff. Okay, and then we're gonna wipe them with alcohol after we finish buffing, and we are ready to go. Okay, so I'm going to be using for the base coat from the Butter Collection, the Mayo YMB 3 and 6. These are some really nice, like very pastel syrups. I love the Butter Collection. Actually, funny story. I wanted to order it. I wanted to order it, and when I had the money to order it, it went out of stock. And then I was like, oh, well, I needed a bunch of other stuff. Like I needed some new top coat and stuff. So I was like, well, I guess I'll just, order it later. Like it's not in stock. So I placed my order, like a big old order. Okay. From Sweet Nail Supply. They're who I order most of my nail products from. And, literally the day after I placed the order, it came back in stock. And I was like, you know what? And then I was like, I may not truly have the money for it, but I've been wanting this Butter Collection for a while. So I made a second order just of the Butter Collection because I was like, no, I need it. So we're going to they are very sheer, but they're very nicely buildable. So we're going to do a second coat. I really didn't know what I wanted to do with these nails when I started. So I take a lot of I was like, okay, I'm going to make some pastel nails because I like pastel nails. And as you'll see, as this goes on, I realize, oh wait, we're still in October. I got to make them Halloweenish. So these will be vague. They're Halloween nails, but in a very cute sort of way. Okay, let's stick those back to cure. All right, I find that the Mayo Korea has a really sticky, tacky layer, so I always do like a big wipe down of them before I go in with anything. Give it with some 99% alcohol. Now let's pop this open. And first off, I'm going to be taking this flat check brush, and I'm going to be putting sort of building like a slight plaid design on the pink nails here. So I'm taking the purple and I'm going to be doing vertical lines with the purple over the pink. It goes on very smoothly, but since it is sort of the way I sort of try to describe this is as if you're using acrylic paint that hasn't been thinned out. That's the texture and the vibe of it. So, but it's sticky, sticky acrylic paint. So it will, you may have to refresh your brush to make for full coverage, but it does go on. It doesn't bleed. It's very smooth. It sticks to what you're painting, which is quite nice. So we're going to be doing those lines on the pink. So we're doing some purple, thicker lines on the pink nails. Yeah, very nice. Clean off this brush. So next I want to start doing some ombre on the green nails. I don't know, it's just sort of practicing and trying things out. So these aren't a set that I would send to anyone, but I'm going in with this pastel eggshell blue. We're just going to be doing I started out thinking, oh, maybe I'll do an aura nail. And I was like, that does look pretty nice. Then I was like, I can't make them all aura nails. I need things to be different. So when we move on to the other nails, I just start doing little, one blue spot in various locations on the other nails. So on the pinky here, we're going to go in, at the bottom there. And then blending it out. And then we'll go at the bottom and the top and then blend those out. Again, this ombre'd incredibly well. Very impressed. Stick those into cure. Okay, next up. Thought to myself, what should I do next? Well, I should just, darken up this ombre a bit. And then with the blue, I decided to do some horizontal lines across the nails for this sort of like plaid-ish gingham look. Now, I will say, since I was just sort of freestyling this for my own nails, the spacing of these horizontal lines leaves a bit to be desired, shall we say. But, you know, it's fine. I'm the only, like, it's just basically me who sees them. So, and you, I guess. But since I'm the one wearing them, it doesn't bother me too much. I was just freestyling and having a little bit of fun. Again, if I was making these for someone else, I would have probably been a lot more careful about the placement of these horizontal lines, but I just sort of went off on a spacing situation with these. And we're going to send that in for cure. So I then decided, ooh, what if I added like a second color to this ombre? So I'm adding some of the purple, a little pattern in some of the purple. It's sort of like a little accent. So it's just sort of got like colors blending into each other. And it looks very nice. Like it turned out looking very beautiful, if I do say so myself. So I decided that I was going to add like some iridescent powder on some like another line on these. So I put some matte top coat on top of the plaid nails so that I could isolate it. I'm just using the Born Pretty matte top, which I have found actually isolates chrome incredibly well. It's not advertised for that, but it really does. So I decided to do green because I have some green iridescent powder. So I was like, okay, I'll do green lines to match the green nails, sort of like bring this in. And I was thinking I would be doing more iridescent stuff. But as I said, I was just kind of fooling around with these nails. So I do not do any more iridescent chrome than what you are about to see on these green lines. So I'm putting them down the center of the blue lines, the thick blue lines that I made. Or the thick purple lines that I made. They do look nice. They look very cute. But I feel like if I hadn't brought out the iridescent powder, they would have looked exactly the same. I made a little mistake. You can easily clean that up with some alcohol and a Q-tip. Since I've got that all the way that looks okay, we're going to stick that in for a cure. So here's the green iridescent powder, which I'm just going to pick up with a little makeup sponge and then just run it up the lines. And yep, you can, when I tell you, you can barely see it in the finished product unless you're like bending it into the light. But you know what? I was having fun. And I feel like that's the important part when you're making nails for yourself, is that you have some fun with it. So I decided now we're going to draw some flowers. Just some simple 5-petal flowers. And I decided to do them in the purple, which is fine, except that it very quickly blends into the background because I also used purple for an ombre. But don't worry, in a little bit, I come up with a solution for this. So I've put flowers. I'm going to put flowers on all of the non-plaid nails. Just little 5-petal situations. Again, this stuff is very easy to work with. I feel like I should have probably pulled out a slightly thicker liner brush. Would have probably served me a lot better for this, but I had this teeny little Diami one already out, and I was just like, I'll just paint forever. But I think if I were to make a similar design in the future, I would pull out a slightly thicker liner brush. So I put like two of these little flowers on each of the nails. Maybe like half of one hanging off there. Just for some visual interest. That again, you can barely see. Because I decided to do it in the same color that I used as an ombre. But as I said, I come up with a solution to this soon. Okay, I then decided that what I wanted to do was to make like a little like frame. This is when I realized, ooh, I should make these Halloween-ish. So here was my plan. I was going to put these little like ovals, and then I'm going to draw a little ghost in the ovals. Yeah. So I'm just going in. Again, a thicker brush would have really helped me here. But I decided to use the tiny little Mayo short liner to do an entire oval over the middle of the plaid nails in this really cute pastel Eastery green that they've got here. So we're doing that on the thumb and the middle finger. The coverage is crazy. It really, the pigment is pigmenting, and it really does go on quite smoothly. So it was very nice for drawing these curves. Very honestly, I am not really good at drawing circles or ovals, but I had a fairly easy time. As you can see, I finally figured out, hey, maybe pick up a thicker brush to fill this in quicker. That's the play. The play is using the bigger brush. So let's stick that into cure. So now we're going to put a little ghost inside of this frame here. It's just a blob with like little blobs at the bottom. That's these little cartoon ghosts. They're not super complex. So big blob with little blobs hanging off the bottom. You got yourself a little ghost. Again, a thicker brush would have probably made this so much easier to fill out. But I don't know why, but I was very dedicated to using my tiniest liner brushes to do non-tiny line work. But here we go. I finally figured out, hey, you don't have to live this way. And then just to refine the little blobs. Take the little brush to do the little pieces. So we got that one there, and then we're gonna do a second one on the thumb. Let's speed through this though. Whee. I did this one very close to the bottom of the oval. Spacing clearly on this little freestyle set was not too much of a concern for old Natalia this week. But this white is also very solid, going down, very pigmented, none of that green showing through at all. Here's where I realized, oh yeah, you can't see these flowers at all. So I'm taking this dark pink and mixing it with a little bit of white, and I'm just gonna like highlight the edges of the petals on these flowers, like kind of like a drop shadow almost, around just one edge of each of the petals so that they actually sort of stand out from the background. It did work. Like from if you're holding it and looking down, you can definitely see, okay, those are supposed to be flowers that are barely coming out of the background. I think the drop shadow was a good choice. This is what happens when I don't plan out my sets before I make them, when I just go straight in. I also need to point out that I'm very sick while making this, so I am on a lot of cold medicine. So some of these choices I make may have also been influenced by the fact that I am NyQuil'd up. All right. So I had to put a little face on the ghost. And I also wanted to put a little outline around the ghost to make it sort of stand out. So using a little dotting tool, we just go in, put little eyes and a little nose. It's a ghost. We do that on the, oh, it fell off. Okay. Little eyes. Boop. Boop. Nose. Okay, cool. Now, I'm like, you know what? I think we also need an outline on these ghosts. So I very carefully trace the outline of these ghosts. Now, as I've said earlier in this video, like line art is something I'm definitely working on, and character art, I'm lost on it, but I really would like to get better at it. And the only way to get better at something is to be kind of bad at it to begin with. So I'm like, every sort of one of these sort of shaky, sad looking line arts that I do, these are just a journey that I'm on, that I'm now putting out here so that other people know you too can be on this journey. I've messed up here. I have my little toothpick Q-tips here. You can just wipe it away. It does wipe away very easily. It doesn't like stain until it cures, which is really nice. It cleaned up off the palette super easily. I just took some alcohol on a wipe. It comes up, and then we're just gonna outline these little ghosts. They're a little janky, but they are very cute. You know, like they're janky but adorable. And they have, you know what? My mom would say they have character, you know? As you can see, I've made this one line too thick. I'm going to go in with my little Q-tip in a minute and scooch that line away. And see, just very nicely, just wipe it away. And you're going to win it. It was at this point that I was like, ooh, these flowers need a center. I should draw little skulls in them. Now, the audacity of me, because I'm not good at, I don't know, I can't, listen, I'm an illustrator in my regular life, and I don't normally draw skulls. Like, I'm not, very cartoonish style stuff that I draw. But I was like, yeah, I'm going to draw skulls, which basically amounts to me drawing little blobby keyhole shapes. And these are so tiny. I cannot even impress upon you how tiny these are. Like, the audacity of me to think I could do this. They vaguely resemble skulls if you sort of look at them sideways. But in theory, you draw little keyhole shapes in white as like the base of these little cartoon skulls. cure those. And now I'm going to come in and yeah, we're going to be putting faces on these little skulls. So we're going to be doing like 2 little dots for eyes and sort of like an upside down V as the nose was my idea. But then these things are like 1.5 millimeters large. Like they're so teeny. But I'm like, you know what? We're going to make it work, man. And they do look, some of them, vaguely skull-like. We're now going to go do like, what I decided to do was do like black around one edge and then a few little lines along the bottom to like denote teeth. And that's what we did. And it is fine. My skulls could use work, but they're cute and they've got a vibe, you know? And that's, see, we're just putting little teeth. Yeah. This one's vaguely skull-like. Yeah. You see the vision, the attempt here. I then realized that, like, the frames didn't stand out very much. So I'm mixing some white and that dark pink. And we're just going to do, like, a little edge around the frame to make them stand out. So it's basically the same color that I used as the drop shadow on the flower petals. I'm just gonna paint that across there. I find Halloween so fascinating because I love Halloween. It's legit one of my favorite holidays, but my aesthetic is so pastel and colorful that things like this are but I also love, you know, like horror movies and monster stuff and spooky things and ghost stories. So really getting those two things to meld is fun for me. And making this set was very fun. And this palette was really good. So we're going to be top coating it with my Huge, the Gin Bee Crazy Top Standard. My brush looks crazy. I did remold it. So if your brush ever does this, like if you see how all like the bristles of mine have gone kind of crazy, and it's like a synthetic brush, this is the soft gel brush for their like application. Great brush. Basically just boil some water. And what I do is I use like the top of a spaghetti lid, like from a jar of spaghetti, and I pour the boiling water in the top of the lid, and then you just put the brush in it and let it sit in it for like 15 seconds, and the bristles will all like flatten back down into a reasonable shape. So I have actually fixed the brush since then, so it should be less crazy. So we're going to cure that for the full 60 seconds, and our set is basically done. I did end up reversing the colors on the other hand and then switching the middle and the ring finger between hands, but very cute. So I like reverse the colors on it. They were very cute. This palette, the Nail&Yolly palette, I can really recommend it. I think it's great. It made really cute little nails. I think I'm going to be using it quite a bit, especially for, you know, working on line art. My one issue with it is that I have a really hard time getting it open, which is good because that means it can't accidentally fall open super easily. But I have found that if I just stick my little metal cuticle pusher and flip it under, it does open quite easily. So yeah, the lid doubles as a palette if you want to use it. It does rotate like that. And yeah, I thought this was a really good $40 to $45 purchase, and I made some very cute nails. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back next week with another video. Bye!